Welcome to Jordan, the most majestic country in the Middle East and home to one of the wonders of the world, the hidden city of Petra. A country steeped in history then, and it was history of a sporting kind being made at the inaugural Jordan Mixed Open presented by Isla. Held at the Par 72 Isla Golf Club in the coastal city of Akbar, the event saw male and female professionals from 3 tours compete alongside one another for the same trophy. The Challenge Tour played off the back tees, the Stayshore Tour men off the middles, while Ladies European Tour players went off the front tees. The Stayshore Tour's Paul Streeter got his tournament off to a flying start. This was a pin seeker at the 7th from a man who won twice on the Stayshore Tour in 2018, in form and in the clubhouse on 6 under. 2 shared second, and one of those was Megan McLaren, the Englishwoman who picked up her second LET win earlier this year, birdied the 10th, one of 8 on her card during a round of 65. Out ahead was Dan Housing. The Dutchman certainly wasn't struggling with the putter, rolling this one home at the par 4 7th. Housing narrowly missed out on a European Tour card at the Challenge Tour Grand Final last season, but with an opening day 64, he looked in determined mood. Housing won clear then of McLaren and the Challenge Tour's Jack Senior on a day of good scoring on the Greg Norman designed layout. Day 2 saw the same names pull away from the chasing pack. Dan Housing with a round of 4 under, despite, as he later revealed, being unhappy with his accuracy. 12 under after 2 days would normally be more than enough for the lead if it wasn't for the exploits of Megan McLaren. She showed some Spanish hands at the second to set up a birdie during a remarkable round of 65. The Englishwoman, a 2-time winner on tour, was clearly enjoying the course. Her 2 opening rounds featured 15 birdies and just a single bogey on the card, 14 under par with a 2-shot lead heading into the final day. And testimony to the course setup, a near equal amount of players from all 3 tours made the cut, with 1 from each in Saturday's final group. On the final day, Megan McLaren picked up where she left off. She already birdied the first before producing this beauty at the 3rd. A monster putt, her second birdie. McLaren was right on track. In stark contrast, Paul Streeter just couldn't get it going on the final day. This double bogey at the 4th effectively ended his hopes. McLaren, though, continued to accelerate away. Birdie number 3 of the day at the 5th, and with Housing unable to match her, the Englishwoman had a 5-shot lead. Housing needed something to spark his round, and that came at the very next hole, a sublime tee shot at this par 3. And in fact, so close to a hole-in-one, but a tap-in birdie would follow while McLaren went on to drop her first shot of the day. But back came McLaren at the very next hole. Her putter seemed hotter than the Jordan sun, her 4th birdie of the day, and the lead was back to 4. And so could Housing respond again. The answer was a resounding yes. With McLaren parring, the Dutchman made the birdie he desperately needed at the 8th. McLaren's putter, though, suddenly went from red hot to ice cold after missing a makeable birdie putt at the 10th. She would end up 3 putting here. A disappointing bogey then. Was the door starting to open? Now McLaren's struggles continued at the next hole. She found the brook to the left of the green at 11, and a double bogey would follow. Housing would par. Her lead had vanished. Both were now level on 14 under. Welshman Oliver Farr began the day 6 shots off the lead, but the Challenge Tour player really began to make a move on the back 9. This pushed him to 11 under at the 12th. At one stage, Dan Housing had been 5 shots back, but incredibly, he took a 1-shot lead at the same hole. A wonderful putt and a little fist pump to celebrate. McLaren's struggles meant Farr had an outside chance if he could keep his momentum going, and the Welshman remained in the groove. This a beautiful touch at 13 to set up his second birdie in a row. Housing, meanwhile, was having one of those days with the putter. He simply wasn't missing. Another birdie at the 13th, and with McLaren only able to par, he now had a two-shot lead. Farr, meanwhile, was producing a sensational back nine. This at 14 would set up his third birdie in 3 holes, and he moved to 13 under par. Housing dropped a shot at 14, and McLaren had a good look at this birdie putt to draw level, but the ball just wasn't dropping. Housing getting away with one there, and he took full advantage at the 16th. A simply brilliant birdie putt after a wayward tee shot on the 210-yard par 3. The burning question then, could McLaren match that birdie? It was a good effort, but it drifted by, and that meant Housing had restored his two-shot lead with 2 to play. If Farr could birdie the last 2 holes, he'd been with a chance of a playoff, and he delivered on the 17th. Playing in the penultimate group, he could put some scoreboard pressure on Housing and McLaren. And especially so since they both found the water from the tee at the par 5 17th. Housing would rescue par, but McLaren found the green with her third shot. And that meant she had a chance to move within a shot with 1 to play. But it was another putt that refused to drop. Farr's hopes, meanwhile, ended in dramatic style on the 18th. He found both the water and the sand. His frustration was obvious for all to see. And he would also struggle with the putter, a triple bogey to end. Housing also found the sand on 18, but produced some real quality under pressure to escape. With McLaren unable to get on in 2, the win was effectively in the bag. A regulation par to finish for McLaren as she closed on 14 under, the same score she'd started the final day with. And that meant the week belonged to this man, Dan Housing, a final day 4 under round of 68 from the 28-year-old, and a much-needed confidence boost after narrowly missing out on securing his European Tour card last year. Ultimately, it was heartbreak for McLaren, who'd played so well all week, but was undone by those mistakes at the 10th and 11th. In contrast, Housing could celebrate an historic 2-shot win, the inaugural champion at a mixed golf event. An 8 under par 64 from Martin Simonsen saw the Dane rocket up the field to take third, while Farr's disaster at 18 dropped him down into a share of 4th. Scott Henry, whose wife Kylie was also playing the event, earned the bragging rights with a tie for 11th. It was Housing's 3rd win on the Challenge Tour, but the first ever in this format. The Dutchman's name forever in the history books, something he agreed was a significant achievement.
Big moment for me. I've had a rough time at home recently, so this is a really sweet way to, to prove to myself I got it. I'm honored. I think it's a historical event. I think it was a great experience, and I'm really honored to be the champion here.
It hurts to not win, but I know, whenever I get home and think about it and stuff, I am proud of what I've done this week, and I hope I've represented the LET and women's golf in general as well as possible, because it deserves a bit of a spotlight. And if this just kicks things up a little bit, then I'm proud of what's happened.
Thanks for watching during a week when golf broke new ground in gender equality. Let's hope this is the start of a bright new chapter.